All right, everyone, welcome back to Talkin' Soccer. I'm Justin Horniker, and we are going to talk about what just happened in the 2022 World Cup final. Lionel Messi has just won his 42nd career title, and the one that's been missing the most from his resume. He's won the Champions League, he's won La Liga, he's won Liga, he's won the Copa America, but now he has won the World Cup as well. The one last thing on his resume to really kind of put his career into perspective. Of course, it's not done yet. He's on his way to MLS, of course, the shining moment of his career. But this is probably his final World Cup, assuming that he's done in 3.5 years from now, which, who knows? He could still be playing. As weird as that is to think about. But for all intents and purposes, we can treat this as, his crowning achievement. And for all that greatness, all the greatness of Lionel Messi scoring 2 goals and 1 assist to, really, and a confident pen as well. The penalty that he took was just savagery. But to really put it into perspective, the greatness of this game was really a microcosm of the World Cup in general. The World Cup has had phenomenal moments on the field just throughout, from the group stages, that Saudi Arabia upset of Argentina to kick things off, that Morocco team making a deep run. Croatia was a fantastic story as well. The Japan team and their upsets, Germany falling out of the World Cup group stage, and then the amount of knockout games that went to penalties, the amount of knockout games that, had late game heroics to send it to extra time to go to penalties to really put the result in question. This World Cup on the field might be the greatest World Cup of all time, but its legacy off the field will be nothing without complications. You have, to kick things off, Qatar Airways essentially sponsoring the Fox broadcast. I'll link that story down below, but Fox, for those of you who don't know, was originally going to send kind of a skeleton crew to cover this World Cup, and then Qatar Airways sponsored the broadcast, and then Fox decided to send their whole crew, including Chad Ochocinco and Alexa Lawless, which, I watched most of this World Cup on Telemundo because I cannot stand that broadcast. But it's also, there was a big BBC article that came out, just railing the Fox Sports coverage. And I think, every American who was subjected to that, look, folks, I'm telling you, even if you don't understand Spanish, the Telemundo broadcast was great. Just the emotion. You don't need to that's the beautiful thing about soccer, is you don't need to understand what they're saying to understand just the momentous occasion of the game, of the action. But if you can understand Spanish, it's actually a pretty good broadcast, especially when you're used to, your typical American style sports broadcast. So aside from the coverage itself, it's also, Fox's inability to cover anything critical of Qatar. They made when you watch the clips of the BBC broadcast and you watch the clips of Fox's broadcast, there's no discussion of sports washing. There's no discussion of migrant worker abuse. And when there was a migrant worker death during the World Cup, there was no discussion of it on Fox either. And I think that it's important to know that these structures that we're celebrating, these structures that are giving us these fantastic sporting moments, have been tainted by death everywhere. This entire World Cup has been tainted by death. Grant Wall passing, that took me out of the World Cup for days. I was gonna have more content last week, but I just was having trouble with just coming to grips with Grant Wall dying. And, it's something, death is a natural thing, as Qatar said on, oh my God, I guess we can talk about that, right? Al Qatar was discussing with BBC reporters about migrant deaths, and what he said is, we're in the middle of a World Cup, we have a successful World Cup, and this is something you want to talk about right now. Death happens all the time, is what he said during the World Cup, the day before Grant Wall died. And again, don't get this twisted. This is not a conspiratorial thing. This is just me talking about how the World Cup is just this World Cup, this legacy of this World Cup is tied in with the greatness on the field, but the death that just surrounded all around it. And that these hastily constructed World Cup stadiums also didn't have adequate safety measures, which we've found out about throughout the World Cup as well. And that's something that we should absolutely be talking about. It's something that hopefully there will be investigations on afterwards. But not to take away too much from the action on the field. As you know, people try to take politics out of sports, but it's inherently tied in, especially when you're talking about people dying in the stadium. That is inherently a political issue. And then you had, the nonsense of the U.S.-Iran pre-match debacle press conference. I guess that was before all this. But, there's just silliness off the field everywhere. And, it started before the World Cup even started. You had the One Love armbands that most of the European squads are going to wear that Qatar decided to pull at the last moment. Belgium had a World Cup kit that was approved. All these kits had to be approved before the World Cup. And Qatar, or FIFA, I guess, Qatar and FIFA told Belgium that they couldn't wear their white away kits because they had One Love written in the back of it. And they had kind of rainbow around the collar. The fact that Grant Wahl got accosted before a World Cup game by security for wearing a rainbow t-shirt, that there's something about, as someone who is, I don't know, I have family who are LGBTQ. I have a lot of friends who are LGBTQ, and to see kind of not just their treatment, but advocates for LGBTQ rights treatment in Qatar is just like beyond the pale for me. It's something I can't just look past when I'm talking about this World Cup. You also had the fact that Qatar promised Budweiser, a major sponsor of the tournament, that their products would be able to be sold within the stadium. And then the, weekend before the start of the tournament, they tell them that they can't sell alcohol in the stadium. So all of this inventory that Budweiser had ready to, go to Qatar all of a sudden goes to waste. And that is one of your kind of main sponsors of the tournament. And Gianni Infantino, bending over backwards to support the Qatari regime, to support, I don't know, I don't even know what his agenda is. His agenda is money. Let's just get that out there. And his ridiculous expectations and his ridiculous explanations of why things are the way they are and why we in the West are hypocrites for talking about everything in Qatar because of our country's past human rights debacles, which there are plenty. I'm not saying that, but from my view as an American journalist, I can say this stuff without repercussions. I covered track and field before I covered soccer, and the Olympic movement has a lot of these same issues that you're seeing in the Qatar World Cup right now. And FIFA and the IOC are, one and the same for the most part with the controversies. The controversies with the Olympics mirror the controversies with FIFA very, very easily. But all that to say is that complicated legacy is intertangled with what we saw today, which was a brilliant Lionel Messi performance where he had 1 assist and 2 goals, including a goal in extra time that everyone watching thought was it. And then you had Kylian Mbappe scoring a hat trick. 1 penalty, 2 just brilliant goals, including 1 answer in stoppage time to essentially send it to penalties. You had an Argentina team that dominated for 75 minutes of this game, where France didn't even have a shot attempt through 75 minutes of this game, to the point where they had 2 goals within 3 minutes, and by the 85th minute, it's 2-2, and France is looking like they could have won ahead before extra time. It was a brilliant game. The way that Lionel Messi was able to break France's lines to the point where France never really had control of this game. They never looked confident until those closing minutes. They just never found that flow that they had. Antoine Griezmann just didn't have the interplay that he had throughout this tournament until today. Not to say that I don't think Griezmann had a great game. I thought he was fine, but definitely not what he was earlier in this tournament up until today. You know, Dembele, Giroud kind of had rough games. Of course, being taken out in the 41st minute tells you everything you need to know. We can highlight other players outside of Messi and Mbappe too, but those are the obvious highlights of this, is these two superstars, one starting to get past his prime, but still the greatest player in the game. And Mbappe, who probably is the best player in the world right now in pure talent, and is only 24 years old and is not even in kind of the prime years of his career yet. It's just incredible. It's an incredible game, marred by the darkness surrounding it. So let's talk about who we thought had good games today to kind of send this into more of a sporting side. I thought Enzo Fernandez was great. He was probably, outside of Di Maria and Messi, Enzo Fernandez, probably so if I had to put a top three in my Argentina squad, Di Maria, Enzo Fernandez, Lionel Messi. I thought Alexis McAllister was very good today as well. And then you look at their center back pairings of Otamendi had just a disaster of a game. I thought actually Christian Romero I thought was good, but Otamendi was just terrible. He was the sole reason that France were able to claw their way back into this game. Emi Martinez with his clutch save in extra time, and then, you know, his saves and the penalties, obviously that he gets awarded the goalkeeper of the tournament, and I think that's fair given his performance, although Hugo Lloris was arguably better in this game. He had to make 7 saves today, which is just unreal. On the France side, of course, outside of Mbappe, I thought Tchouaméni played well, Rabiot played well, but the big thing for France when they brought on Kingsley Coman and Eduardo Camavinga, after that, France were able to turn the table. And actually, France's first goal happens, was it the first or their second? I think their first, no, the non-pen goal. So this goal happens after Kingsley Coman doesn't give up on the ball. He's able to recover, regain possession, keep the ball inbounds, and send the ball forward. And then Mbappe, ultimately, this is the one that's kind of sent over to him, and he's almost on the ground, parallel to the ground by the time the ball goes in. Just a fantastic goal. And if you're going to get someone into the sport of soccer and into just how dramatic the closing minutes of a soccer game can be, this would be the game. So what this ends in is penalties. Argentina end up winning penalties 4-2. And that is that. Argentina win their 3rd World Cup. They keep France from winning back-to-back World Cups. And next time we have a men's World Cup, we'll be in America. So might have some first-person footage when we're here. They'll have games in Kansas City. I am in Kansas City, so we'll be bringing you coverage of that. But anyway, let me know what you thought of this game down below. Let me know what you think of Messi's legacy and the legacy of this World Cup. I'd love to know if this weighs heavily on your mind as well. As always, if you like my content, please make sure to subscribe. Give me that thumbs up. Help me grow in the algorithm. We've been having some good weeks here at the Talkin' Soccer page. So I appreciate each and every one of you. And as always, folks, we will talk very, very soon.